We've talked a lot about Nico Horner getting traded, but what if he doesn't? And what if Matt Shaw doesn't get traded? Now that Alex Bregman has joined the Cubs, what does Matt Shaw's future look like for the Cubs? And what does that tell us about what the Cubs thought of their former first-round pick? We're going to talk about that. Two Cubs minor league prospects ended up as some of baseball's top 10 prospects, including Moises Ballesteros and Jonathon Long. The Cubs signed Charlie Barnes out of Korea. Marquee dropping games in spring training. I'm going to tell you what I think about that. And baseball announces its Hall of Fame class. No Cubs in there, but some guys that we remember that certainly played against the Cubs. So we'll talk about all that stuff right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Hit the bell and join. Boom, right there. Mick Nation, AveD. And get in the comments section, win some hats. All that stuff. And I'm rambling on. Let's get the show started. All right. Good to see you guys. Mick Gillespie, welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. Let's get right into this. So we've been talking a lot about the fact that the Cubs are shopping Nico Horner and Matt Shaw, or maybe they're just fielding offers, however you want to look at it. Now the Atlanta Braves are going to need an infielder. They're going to need a second baseman. Maybe they're in on this conversation as well. We talked about this on yesterday's show. A lot of you guys are like, look, do not trade Nico. Some of you guys are like, few of you guys are like, trade Nico. I believe in Matt Shaw. Whatever. Cubs are going to have a tough time making this decision. I mean, it's going to have to be, I think, a really, really, really overwhelming deal for the Cubs to make this. So let's just say we go into the regular season. It's Bushy at first, Nico at second, Dansby at shortstop, Bregman at third. Well, what does that mean for Matt Shaw? Well, that's a good question. And right now we're hearing a couple things. We talked about him trying to play the outfield. We don't know how that's going to work out. Is he going to be good enough to play big league games in the outfield? I mean, this is something that the Cubs probably should have worked on when he was coming up through the minor leagues. You know, he played second, he played short, he played third, but he didn't play the outfield. That would have been a good opportunity for them to say, hey, you know what? Like, let's get this guy some games in the outfield. So it's been a while for him, but he's a good athlete. Let me tell you this. He's drafted as a shortstop. You draft guys as shortstops because most of those guys are athletic enough to do other stuff. So I'm sure that the Cubs are hoping that Matt Shaw is able to do that. Now, he's 24 years old. You remember he was the Cubs' first-round pick out of Maryland a few years ago. He hit 226, 13 home runs, 44 runs batted in. He did have 21 doubles, and that was in 437 plate appearances. He also struck out 94 times. In the postseason, 2 for 17, 1 run batted in, a stolen base, 7 strikeouts, didn't help out a whole lot, right? Played some good defense, though, but wasn't a factor in the postseason, right? And then the other thing that you really worry about is his ability to hit the ball hard. And I think that was one of the things that got him sent back to the minor leagues. Remember, he made the team out of spring training, was in Japan, kind of dealing with an injury, got sent back, right? Like, hey, you got to go back. You got to hit the ball harder. Changed the batting approach, kind of had that little step, and at times was hitting the ball hard. And then other times he just looks overmatched, right? So the Cubs got to figure out, like, do they feel that he's going to be able to overcome stuff like a low hard hit rate, right? A low average exit velocity, a high chase rate, right? Like, which is all crazy analytics, but it all makes sense, right? He didn't square the ball up very much. Like, he was in the bottom half of the league on a lot of this stuff. So what does that mean for Matt Shaw and the Cubs, right? I think that with the rumors going out there, the Cubs have to decide first off, do they think Matt Shaw is going to improve from year one to year two? Players do sometimes. Sometimes they don't. To me, I just kept waiting for the light bulb to come on. And we saw it kind of there for a little bit, and then the league makes adjustments. I never thought he was a third baseman. I thought he was just size-wise, it's not the fit that I would have had for him. Utility guy might be a really good spot for him. Just to be able to kind of take a deep breath, be a part of the game. He can run. You can use him as a pinch hitter. You obviously like the fact that he's right-handed because the Cubs felt like they were pretty left-handed heavy. But with this market all of a sudden for middle infielders, even though we have kind of thought of him as the future of second base for the Cubs if they don't sign Nico Hoerner, doesn't mean that the Cubs won't flip him right now for something good if they got the right deal, and we were talking about the Red Sox yesterday. So it's interesting to think about where he fits in. And you hear him talking about at-bats and trying to find at-bats, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just sit on the bench, and you don't play. So you've got to be able to contribute when you get an opportunity. And that's different for a lot of guys because you spend your entire life playing every day. That's your routine. And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, guess what? Your routine isn't playing every day anymore. You better take advantage of your batting practice. You better stay, alert and ready because, you may go an entire week and pinch hit one time when you're a utility guy. So I'm curious to see kind of how this works out. If the Cubs trade Shaw, it tells me they're going to sign Nico Hoerner. And I wouldn't be surprised either way. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade Nico. Wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. Wouldn't be surprised if they kept Shaw. Wouldn't be surprised if they traded him. I think that it all depends on what the offer is and kind of how they feel like that's going to help their future. I want to talk about a couple of prospects that made some pretty cool lists. Let's start with Moises Ballesteros, ranked as the 6th best catching prospect in the minor leagues, right? All of baseball. I kind of feel like this is weird because he may be the 6th best catching prospect, but we never see him catch. And that's because he's really just been kind of a hitter, like a DH type of guy. I heard that he was improving defensively. His bat was way ahead of his defense. That's the toughest position in the game to play. I think it's the most coveted position. If I was a GM of a team, I would go above and beyond to make sure that I had a franchise player at catcher, a Buster Posey, a Jody Davis, right? Somebody that, you can put behind the plate. It's going to call a great game. It's going to work with your pitching. That is a rock that you can count on, a leader in the clubhouse. And I feel like Moises can hit, but I don't know that he's there with the other stuff yet. And so I think that in a way it kind of shows you where the position is, not to take a shot at him. He's a great hitter. He is a guy who right now could be one of the best hitters on the Cubs team if he was given the opportunity. And 289, great left-handed swing with just an unbelievable approach. The way that he is able to use his wrists to hit, bat to ball skills. They wanted him to hit for more power. The guy did that. He's got the potential to hit over 20 home runs. And, and I think he's going to be on the big league roster, but he's 5'8". And so far it just feels like he's more of a DH than a catcher. So the congratulations to him, and look for him on the big league roster. And every time they should have batted him more last year. I mean, when the team was struggling to hit, it seemed like they took too long to give him the bat and let him go up there and do something. Now, the other guy that's on this list is Jonathon Long, Johnny Long, 7th ranked first base prospect. And you're talking about a guy here who just doesn't get a lot of respect from the scouts, right? Like, they don't like him. They don't care about his ability to hit, that he's hit at every level. They look at him, and it's one of those things for them that they don't like his swing that much. They don't look at the fact that he is really good at the plate, great plate approach, right? That he takes walks, that he uses the entire field, that he's got good bat speed, and he hits the ball hard. And it's a shame. And I think this is one of the things with the game that I don't like sometimes. Like, well, the analytics tell us, like, look, you still got to go out and play baseball. So teams like the A's and Tampa Bay, they'll give these kind of guys a shot. And I know Jonathon Long doesn't have to be on the 40-man until I think after the season, right? But you never hear him as a guy that the Cubs are thinking, hey, and I know we got a first baseman, but I'm just saying, like, you don't hear a lot of that. And who knows? I mean, you heard some of the same stuff about Matt Mervis. Didn't work out. I don't know. I think Jonathon Long and players like him, give him an opportunity and see what they can do. And I certainly hope that he gets that. But it's one of the top 10 first base prospects. Good thing for the Cubs, and they got him in AAA. He'll be there again this year. That's where he was last year. So he's waiting for an opportunity. And if they don't think that they're going to play him, then they should trade him. Maybe somebody else will give him an opportunity. He'll go to Oakland, and all of a sudden you'll be like, man, this guy's killing it. Where'd he come from? Well, got kind of a little hitch in his giddy up somewhere along the line. These guys that watch a ton of baseball. And I got to tell you, they were pretty good accurate at this stuff too. I still don't think that analytics predict how a guy can go out there and hit. And you look over the years in baseball, not everybody swings the same. Just a matter about putting a bat on the ball and doing something with it. So, but it was cool to see him in there. I know he was the Cubs minor league player of the year and deserved that, man. Like, just this guy, just when he was playing, and I watched him play a ton of games in AA, he was really good. Just constantly giving pitchers a pain in their backside. Cubs made a minor league signing, a guy that pitched for the Reds last year. Before that, he was in the Korean Baseball League for a long time. He pitched in the big leagues about 5 years ago. And we'll see what happens. Sometimes the Cubs take guys like Charlie Barnes and they left-handed starter, give us a little bit of depth. Let's kind of see what we can do with the 30-year-old. Last year, had a go with Cincinnati and their AAA team, Louisville. They didn't do too good, but they obviously like something about them. And I think it always starts with being left-handed. And then the other thing is, like, when you pitch overseas, sometimes you pick up stuff that maybe, you wouldn't pick up here. I remember Rich Hill, left for a long time, came back, and then all of a sudden it's like he's still there. Like, you can't get rid of him. All right. This is a weird one for me, just because I worked with Marquee, and my dream was always to be on Cubs TV. Got an opportunity to do that before COVID. Love all the people involved in this, but I saw where Crane, our friend Crane Kenny, was talking about we're not going to do as many spring training games because it's expensive. I think part of it is there's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of excuses why. There's market things and this and that. I feel like Marquee is missing out on opportunities with the most important thing that they do, and that's broadcast baseball games, right? Bringing baseball to you. And so there's ways with modern technology to do things where maybe you don't have the huge setup that it used to take, and they're going to have to figure that out, or they're going to miss opportunities. Every single one of those spring training games, and I broadcasted them for like a decade, they matter. They tell the story of how you're building your roster, but moreover, it's the franchise channel, right? Like all of, and I'm not saying just the Cubs. I'm saying in general, and not all these these other teams pick up all the games as well. But they should have as much of that content as possible, and that means like every single day, you should be able to turn that on, and if there's a game, get the maximum amount of coverage. And I'm just going to leave it there. But, they're going to cut games back. We don't know how many they're going to do. When Marquee started, it was like they wanted to basically, we were doing the spring training games on MLB and Cubs.com. They wanted us out. They were going to do all these games. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was like, hey, then if people can watch the game, maybe they don't want to, log on and listen to them. They'd rather see it. Then that was good, So figuring out how to do it fiscally responsible was a whole nother thing. But when you talk about things, the thing's got to be the thing, and the thing's the baseball games, and if you're a TV station that broadcasts a baseball team, then the baseball games are the most important thing that you have, like not high school football with like the, students calling the games and, women's soccer and stuff like that. Like, no, nobody wants that. They just want as much Cubs content as possible and get people that have been in the organization to talk about it instead of, talking heads that are from other places that you bring in, and then you got to feed them stuff. You want genuine, like, people that have an opinion because they've been around and got that opinion. I know it's a novel concept. Anyway, all right, last thing. Hall of Fame announced for this year, Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones of the Atlanta Braves. Two guys that were kind of like right there, felt like. Well, Beltran, you knew he was getting in. I mean, come on, But Jones, we didn't really know. He had some great years with Atlanta. Remember, Atlanta was like 14 straight years they made the postseason. They won the division. I mean, they dominated in the National League East, right? And Jones was like the guy that patrolled center field. I remember they'd always be like, he doesn't look like he's trying to run fast, but he's a lot faster than he looks, And then you just see him in person, you'd be like, man, that's true. Like he's like he gallops to the ball. But he was a really good player. I still think that talking about former Braves, that Dale Murphy belongs in the Hall of Fame. I know he's not a Cub, but there was a time when Dale Murphy was the best player in the game, but that he's not even in the same thing. The writers aren't voting for Dale Murphy. It's like a committee, right? So anyway, congratulations to both of those guys. I love the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think it's what makes baseball different is the All-Star games matter, and the Hall of Fame's a big deal. All right, like, subscribe, thumbs up. You guys tell me what you think. Hit the QR code. Be in the conversation. We're going to talk Cubs baseball on a daily basis, and and keep on doing it. And also, don't forget, you can win. Get in the comments section. I saw some of you guys tell me you want one of these hats. We'll give some of these away. You can even buy them if you want. And hit that QR code there, and AveD, we give them away there as well. So got a lot of stuff to get excited about as we get closer and closer to the start of spring training. All right, thanks, guys.